And should see people joining, one waiting.
You got like the horror lighting on you.
Yeah, sorry, man. It's just because I'm working on stuff, so I need to see my keyboard. Believe it or not, I'm working on pages for you, and on this HR book at the same time. So I made my lighting a little bit better. It was a bit too cold.
Yeah, I can't really do much for my lighting, Lord, unless I turn everything around.
No, right now I look like something from Event Horizon. I don't know. Something about my eyes just made me look like I'm some fucking freaky thing. I mean,
my lighting's
fudging freaky thing. Sorry, I realized we're live.
Hey everybody, this is GI Joe, and you're joined by Paul, Steve, Sleeve, Rob, and Cujo. And tonight we're going to talk cool stuff about something very interesting called Blvck Book. And hopefully it's going to be amazing, and you're going to be interested, and we're going to be interested. Because if we're not interested, why should you be interested? Obviously, that makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm just going to edit our Facebook post just so I can get everybody coming to the right place.
Do it.
I will do it.
Hey, Tech Man.
Hey. It's working, yes. Hey.
Link to the live stream. Okay. Sorry, I know that when I'm speaking and looking down, it makes for interesting viewing. So I'm sorry, viewers.
No, don't worry. I should lift my keyboard higher.
Rob's got an extremely hazed lens.
It's because I tend to cover the lens so that people can't watch me when I'm sleeping at night.
It's very Shatner, to be honest.
Okay, well there we go.
Star Trek, when he's seeing someone he fancies. You see the eyes.
I can get closer, I suppose, but then you'll just see my glasses.
It's Shatner Shago Vision.
Hey, okay, let me disconnect this keyboard.
What's up from Pennsylvania? That is Gotti Jr. Hey guys, hey everybody in the chat box. I will view the chat box on behalf of the guys. I'm gonna mute my mic just because I am working on stuff.
He's working very heavily.
I am working very heavily. So I'm going to let these guys do, let's call it the quote-unquote Blvck box interrogation.
Wow, that sounds intense.
Blvck Book or box?
Blvck Book.
Blvck Book.
It's a Blvck Book. It's a blueprint.
It's a blueprint.
It could be anything.
It can be anything. So I'm going to
if you're in here, thank you very much. You obviously know all the cats in the room. The Blvck Book. Should we chat about or should we take a victory lap around Blood in the Water, the fan fiction that came out? Anybody?
Everybody, all the bodies. I thought it was pretty awesome. I'm really glad that we're able to put something out for someone else, which I think is quite awesome. I'm happy with it. I think it's pretty cool.
I'm over the moon with it. It's hopefully signaling the start of something new, because I mean, you might have caught the live stream we did yesterday with the maker of it and his two daughters, Troy. It's very interesting that we create that tells a similar story, but can be made remotely. Reason being, we all have access to the same cast. We all have common action figures, shared amongst us. So there is no limits to the collaborations we can do.
Goro gives it
global
4, 5, 6 thumbs up, and 7 if his pants are off. Just saying. Okay, Goro is going down now. Goodbye. Sorry. That's a terrible joke. I'm muting myself again for everybody's benefit. Carry on.
Cool.
Well, do you think that the kind of the Blood in the Water community involvement, do you think that will kind of inspire I don't know, other indie creators to kind of carry that story?
Well, I can only hope so. There's no reason why we can't have ongoing plot lines on YouTube. I mean, it seems like, creatively speaking, the GI Joe license is completely in our hands. Aside from Larry's comic book, we're it. So whether it's reviews or actual narratives, hell, I'd love to see more stories being emerging. You know, taken to the next, whether it be stop motion or our kind of like amateurish live puppeteering. Either way, let's tell GI Joe stories. What's exciting about fan content is like it won't necessarily always be the big five. Duke, Snake Eyes, Scarlet,
Scoop.
Roadblock. It's everyone has their favorite Joe, and all of a sudden, like, hell, you can have a DJ solo mission. Because I'm sure there's a fan of DJ out there.
There must be. There really must be. But I think it's fantastic. And it's nice that we were able to kind of host something like that, which I think is quite cool. It's nice to kind of show off other people's talents. It's not just us kind of manipulating the toys the whole time. Everyone can do this. Like literally anyone and everyone can do this. And I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Play with your toys. Play with your toys. Doesn't matter how old or young you are. I mean, we're in our 40s, our 50s now. Yeah, getting old. But
well, Rob, you look good for a 50-year-old.
I try. It's my routine in the mornings.
We're branching out into kind of new forums, maybe not on the regular, but for me, like to promote a project. I don't know. It feels interesting because it's at the personal level, not the network level. Like I feel people are more inclined to support something if somebody kind of puts their hands to the fire for a little bit. And with the community involvement on, I forget the cat's name, Steven, but him and his daughters, that's an interesting intersection because as a father, you can kind of not play dolls, but it's kind of a hands-on type activity that still makes sense, I think.
Yeah, it's nice to kind of get away from being on the computer the whole day. I mean, I all the kids that I often see, especially in the computer store, in the comic shop, they're very much attached to devices and things. It's amazing the kids even get out anymore. Actually, there's so much you can do in this little box that we're all sitting on now, listening and talking to each other on. It's cool that people can still recognize the value of getting out and actually having a great time outside of the stuff that requires electricity. But in the end, also making something cool that you can make something cool you can share with people on the internet.
Steven, let me throw you a question. I know like network and community weren't bad words to you before, but they were kind of concepts that are still taking place. How do you feel about them now that people are kind of reaching out and showing you love and stuff like that? Does it change how you view this whole experience?
When we first started GI Joe, it was very much a message in a bottle. If it finds you, great. If it doesn't, it's not going to stop the fact that we're going to keep, putting those little messages in bottles and sending them off the shore. I think we were never fueled by community response before, so why should we be now? But I do recall a moment some years ago when I think, Rob, you kind of like, you got in a very honest moment, you kind of said, we keep doing these podcasts and we get zero response from anybody. Like, why do we bother? Is anyone even listening to this stuff? And I had to agree at the time. It was like, yeah, 1 or 2 responses might just give us just a little bit more fire to burn, a little bit more motivation to kind of keep going back to the coalface. Because in true fireside chat style, we needed those conversations, but we were uncertain if the world needed them. Cue YouTube. where
Hey.
where the content is so readily available and the response is so immediate. So it's an instant gratification loop. We make content, it gets immediate comments, it gets immediate views, likes, whatever's. So we're fueled to then follow it up with something else. And that has been a huge watershed. So yeah, Curtis, to answer your question, man, it's been wonderful to finally have an immediate rapport with the community instead of it just being this like vague idea that yes, I think there are people out there that might be listening to our stuff. That's wonderful, but we're still doing it very much for ourselves. You know, like that was the old mindset.
I think to that end, and I know everybody loves it when I talk platforms and stuff. You said, YouTube, its immediate response and stuff. I think with the Black Book, not to transition, but just to kind of profile what I think, the Twitter network or the Twitter platform, like ideas come together. It's the way somebody thinks. It's not necessarily their life. So like your network on Twitter should be tighter, maybe, but Facebook is the echo chamber and Instagram is the artistic expression turned vanity, who knows, but yeah, I think I didn't want to do anything out of character. I know everybody's kind of looking at social media differently, or everybody that's listening, but it seems, I don't want to say unavoidable, but like you almost have to find an outlet of expression in the age of information. Are you guys feeling that way, or I guess you guys are getting all you can handle, no?
I think we're pretty busy as it is. I mean, we've got lots of cool things coming up. I think, we're kind of in the middle of a story or, near an end of a current story. And yeah, I mean, as long as people want to see what we're doing, I think, we'll keep producing stuff. I suppose even if people stop looking, we'd still make cool stuff, or we'd just go back to playing with our toys in our bedrooms.
Robert, not to put you on the spot, but like you're an introvert, or at least on that end of the spectrum. Is there an authentic way to express yourself social media wise? You said Slack or something. Is that kind of like your vein, you think?
Well, I mean, I suppose, yeah, I kind of slack off in the end when it comes to social media. It's kind of found social media to be almost too, I don't know. It kind of rewards you too quickly sometimes. And I like the, the time it takes to produce videos and put stuff out on YouTube, and that, the kind of response isn't instantaneous. You're not like constantly chasing that as hard as you would on other social media. And there are other platforms that I quite enjoy, where it's more like direct interaction with people, rather than, like, I suppose, worrying about likes and proper social media platforms. So the one that I really have started really enjoying is Discord. It's just kind of like chatting with more self-contained communities where, like, oh, these people are interested in this thing. You can talk to them about that, but then also it kind of expands and goes beyond that. You can, talk about almost anything you really want to. But anyway, yeah. So,
Well,
yeah, I don't think I'm as social as other people.
That's what Discord sounds like right now.
Yeah.
With the Black Book, just to shed a little bit of light on that, it is a mystery. And honestly, if you get on, which I'm saying you should, it's going to be walking by faith and not by sight. But let me say that Paul is doing amazing work on my lines. So I think the Black Book is just a reference to the Blue Book. The U.S. Air Force has a kind of, back in the day when my uncle was in the military, he used to tell me about the Blue Book, which was all the UFO experiences that they couldn't really explain. The way I feel about extraterrestrial, all that stuff has kind of evolved over the years. But at least the Black Book was meant to be the U.S. The U.S. Army's version of that. So things that happen on the ground that the soldiers can't really explain. So that's kind of where the jump off was. I didn't want to create an IP because it feels cumbersome. I know that's how people get paid, but this is a blueprint for networks to figure out how to put all their creative people together to get paid every couple of years. And like I said, the way that the publishing kind of collapse is shaking out, I think the Flashpoint being a convention, being a community, is the right way to do it. If only 100 people hear this, go 100 for 100 on the Black Book. And that proves a concept. It verifies the community.
Is it an art?
I'm sorry, what was the question? Did Steven just enter the Matrix?
No, I just wanted to. Oh yeah, is the connection getting a bit scrappy?
I think you're sitting a bit too far from the router.
I wanted to. Oh Jesus! Really? Am I wigging out?
Okay, now it's better.
Really? Okay.
It's a little
So,
better.
walk us through it. Oh, jeez. Well,
no, you're good. I can hear you.
That. I can take you guys for a walk. Maybe get closer to the flames. So, talk us through it. This is a collaborative artistic endeavor. How many pages? How many artists?
Mm-hmm. Well, I haven't nailed down exactly how many artists are in the book. I wanted it to feel intuitive, and like if you can roll this deep with these pop culture references, kudos. It's not Dewey Cox's second album, every instrument on the same track. It's more like Michael Mann directing Heat, every character is pitch perfect. So I wanted to make sure that like do short chapters, because each chapter you should kind of feel a different way about it. It's not built as a story, it's built as people asking questions and situations. So it's not a straightforward book. I left out 2 chapters that will go in for the following 2 printings. So it doesn't cheapen the experience, it makes each copy unique. So yeah, it's you'll get a full story. The characters I'm going to remain ambiguous on just because it's not important. Does that answer anything, brother?
Well, there was one other question. You mentioned that it is a collaborative effort. What other artists are featured in the book, and in what capacity do they feature? Are we talking like the odd page? Are they creating additional story arcs?
Right. At least
how does it divvy up?
Well, the Flashpoint being Joe Fest, which again, like I'm gonna nod to Ed, who kind of put the thought in my mind to get it done in this short of a window. All the extra artists, save for 1 or 2, will be at Joe Fest. So if you order this book at Joe Fest, you can get them to sign it. I don't want to drop their names because obviously they got to get their work in. But it will support several artists at that event, as well as a couple others. 40 pages. Paul's colors on most of it. If you're not familiar with Paul, he's about 5 minutes away from being a household name. So I think I'm leaving stuff out, but you're going to have to throw me those questions.
So it sounds like a graphic novel with...
I think you showed
that
perfectly. And the book itself is available on your Indiegogo, is that correct?
It is. It's available for actually just 3 more days, but I mean, if you roll with Joburg, you should ping this thing every day. So, yeah, no, I think whether it sells 20 or 1,000, which is all I'm printing, is 1,000 on this one. The victory is that artists from the community came together and did something that no other community has done yet. That's how I view it. I like it. I like Joburg being on the bleeding edge, you know? I mean, you guys started it. Why shouldn't we keep pushing it? In a positive way, obviously.
Well, I think it's cool that the ideas are kind of spreading beyond just videos. And I mean, as we're kind of starting to kind of, I suppose, collaborate in a way with other video makers and other story makers, it's kind of cool that you're kind of pushing that boundary on the graphic front, as it were. Where right now, as Stephen said, I mean, the only comic books coming out now are from, from IDW. It's nice that there are kind of community-driven things where people are coming up with their own ideas. I mean, I really do enjoy going to comic conventions. And I haven't gone to a lot, but I mean, we have our local one here in Cape Town, FanCon. And it's amazing to see the stuff that people produce. And it would be so amazing. People would work together more to produce even better work. Because I think when you work together, your ideas just kind of bounce off each other and you come up with much better stuff.
I can see that the video. There you go.
Paul, what you got there? What's going on?
I don't know how much I can talk about this right now, but I'm just doing some colors. It's got a lot to do with what Cujo is talking about. It's just if guys want to see it, bear in mind Cuj did say it is a collaborative effort, so there are a lot of other sort of looks and feels and whatever's going into this. So we got this, and I don't want to go into more of it. I don't want to tell anybody what the story is. I'm just trying to make red light look interesting at the moment. That's generally where I am at. Also, Rob, you mentioned like guys creating comics and things like that. I think at JoeCon, the guys that were doing CoilCon, I think they also produced a comic book that was very Joe centric. It was very like Joe themed. Well, when I say Joe themed, it was done by members of the Joe community as well. And yeah, and that was looking pretty interesting. I think Adam Richards did a cover for them or something. I'm not sure. I can't remember all the details now. It's a bit foggy now. But yeah, I know it's cool. It's like
I do know who you're talking about. You're talking about that guy named Wolf or something?
Yeah. I think that's
Wolf. I don't know. No, I think that's what's kind of with the compression of media. What we're losing is the conversation around, product. Like take Hama's book for instance. There's one or two podcasts that go off. Full Force does a great chat about each issue. Talking Joe, I imagine, will get there eventually. But the Joe community, like to create a signal where there isn't one, that's pretty interesting. And to do it without, trolling up your network, that's also not a community first, but I think it's a worthy pursuit. Yeah, that's looking pretty dope, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man. The thing that I wanted to sort of get in with this, and it's something that I think is worth touching or mentioning. In Japan, there is a concept that's called doujinshi, and I do apologize if I've eaten those words. If I've chewed on that word badly now, but it is where people make. I don't want to call it fan fiction because it is and it isn't fan fiction. It is a case of like, well, somebody goes, they really love Macross, and then they create doujinshi based on Macross. Like it's almost like side stories or filler stories, or that they expand on a character or whatever. And there's actually just as big a market in Japan for that as there is for a mainline title. So if you took something like Naruto, One Punch Man, whatever's, there's somebody who's written a side story or something for that. And what often happens, and what has happened in the past, and there are some mangaka, that have become quite popular and famous because of their doujinshi, so much so that they've actually gone into being the professionals that we know and love today, who write things like Death Note and whatever's. In fact, he is famous for being a huge doujinshi guy in the day. But what happens is, guys just expand on these ideas, and now, you've got like America, and let's say the Western world, that is so precious about intellectual property because of how people will abuse their intellectual properties and then, sort of try to make money off it and, sail on the same ship. That there's often like an ironclad sort of policy as with regards to like fan fiction and whatever. They completely refuse it. They don't let it in, whatever. So GI Joe is kind of in a precarious situation in that yes, there's a mainline book, yes, there is a fan base, but it's also a fan base that is hungry for GI Joe content or for content that's like GI Joe. And I think in a weird way, what we're kind of doing here is maybe the first doujinshi of the West, so to speak. You know, Kuj, maybe you've stepped on something kind of interesting here with that. Maybe, you know, maybe you've opened the door to give life to older IPs and you know, fan-made IPs. I could be completely wrong, of course, but at least that's just the vibe I get from it.
Well, I do talk to a lot of independent creatives. And like, I know it's weird, but I think I have to talk like this, that the age of information takes you through the lens. So you're more like, are you supporting art? No, you're supporting community, because that's just what it is now. And I know that people are trying to put the genie back in the bottle. Like one of the reasons why the comics medium is both at its richest and it's also failing is because the editors are now well, they're not the promoters, but there is a collapse. And so kind of like that's what the Blvck Book is trying to find a way for like comic book creators like Wolfgang, who did the Koyokon comics. I did flip through one of those, and it was good. I think I want to say one of the Joe community was the writer. So I'm interested in where they took them. I'm also interested in people. I think the most interesting comics are the ones that are done by like a couple people now, because I think it's the most interesting stories you're going to get. What do you think, Rob? I mean, are you more apt to pick up like a Marvel or DC book, or are you looking at more indies now? Are they more interesting?
Well, well, Marvel. I've always enjoyed Marvel. I enjoy the movies more. Comics wise, I've always loved DC Comics. But I definitely have expanded more into the indie stuff. I mean, not so much too much further beyond Image, you know, which produces a lot of like Creator and stuff. But I'm kind of am pushing beyond that to kind of find the more niche ideas and the more interesting ideas that other people are putting out. You know, maybe uninfluenced by their connections to the bigger companies. Oh, by the way, Brother Malachi donated $20, and he's hoping to go to the AugustaCon, and he hopes we'll be willing to meet him there. You know, whoever of us are there. And he's a big fan of our works. And yeah, he says we must continue the GI Joe mythos if Hasbro will not. Thanks so much, brother.
That's money well spent. I'm not even gonna clown you. The artwork in this pops. You can see it when Paul brings it up. This is a good book. I've been doing comics for a long time. I got 3 more days of promoting. I think I'm gonna do like I've been chatting up a lot of comic content people on Twitter, trying to find kind of a happy medium, how to promote without becoming a talking head, because that's an invasive kind of lifestyle. If you start to be one of those kind of daily YouTube content creators, I think you are the product. So I mean, to remain genuine, I know that a lot of us are kind of looking at just doing kind of Twitter live streams here and there, you know, not drowning our timeline or anything.
Yeah, not going too crazy about it.
Yeah. I mean, and honestly, there's a balance. So I know that like Joe Fan 82, I forget his name, but he started playing with the Twitter live stream. So I mean, it's on the creators to promote their own work, and I think you have to kind of, what's not intuitive as a creator is to have to do the community work or find your community in the process. So with the Blvck Book is analytics, but it's also a labor of love. Like, is there a bearded dragon in it because I love bearded dragons? Also, of course, I'm trying to go to Reptile Con to do an exclusive cover. You know what I mean? So it just, you got to find the overlaps where they're intuitive, I think. But yeah, I've been doing comics for a minute. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
We had one question in chat for you, Cujo. Delvis was asking, so is a Cujo story with a load of artists giving their interpretation of different scenes? Is that kind of, is that an accurate way of describing the blueprint?
Not to be too cliche, but damn good question. No, I think basically I wanted to keep continuity. One of the reasons why I think the comics medium has been diluted is variant covers. And don't get me wrong, I love seeing artist interpretations, but they're just almost spammy now. Like, how many covers are people just flexing on the cover now? Like, there's no real drama or anything. I mean, if you want a good cover, John Royal all day. But by the way, I'm not going to say anything, but John Royal knows about the Black Book. If he knows, he may be in it. So I think, what was the question? I forget. I got lost.
Is it
okay,
a story with a lot of artists giving their interpretations of the different scenes?
No, basically,
is it a
like,
story that you've come up with?
I tell the story. There is a guest frame here and there, and they're hashtagged, so you can definitely point a spotlight at the creator when you see that frame pop up. But most of the artists are contributing to inserts in between the chapters. So basically, like, and maybe a new character turns up, then an independent artist may give you his interpretation of that character, and then I'll explain who you're looking at. So it kind of just gives more culture to the book because you have different art styles and stuff.
Yeah, and I suppose depending on the scene, the artist's style kind of lends itself to what you're trying to bring across in the scene as well.
That kind of talk is very intuitive, Robert. Cheers, brother.
I should be an editor. Pay me.
Well, I mean, you're right in the trenches. Like, you know where people are trending. You know, I don't really know if people's Twitter antics move books. I really don't know about that. That's a different conversation. But it's an interesting intersection. Like, if you're an artist, if you're a writer, how do you stay behind to continue to kind of, because I think if you're writing to a specific audience, you're slipping. I think you got to write to everybody. So it's a weird balance. Paul, what do you think about being a modern artist on the come up? Do you feel like you have to be more visible socially? He may be gone.
No, I think he's probably muted us.
Lucky
He's
bastard.
too busy coloring.
Well, Stephen, what do you think? You want to labor it, or is there anything else on your mind today? Mother's Day, by the way.
Yes, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Happy Mother's Day to my mom. I know you're not watching because you're probably sleeping or busy doing something, but I love you anyway.
Stephen's in his own world as well. It's just you and me, Robert.
Absolutely. Stephen, there's some words.
Oh, I've got a rather poor internet connection this evening for whatever reason, so it's been difficult to keep track of the conversation. I have been monitoring the chats, which is very cool. Brother Malachi, very, very consistent commenter and contributor, and someone I've had some email discourse with is quite interested on getting in on the action. He struck up some conversation about co-authoring some stuff, but I must say, like, the authoring of these adventures is probably my favorite part, because you're completely by time, toys, work. I mean, it is whatever you can dream up, you can put into that script. And I think I'd like to, I don't know if anyone's interested to distribute them, but I'd like to publish the screenplays for the adventures to date. That'd be interesting. See if anyone actually would be interested in seeing something like that.
I think that would be very cool to do with
and
the
indeed, a man of action is absolutely right. That. Oh yes, Paul's letting slip another little side project. So while shooting these things, you know, isolated stills from the stories make for some pretty photography. If I do say so myself. I mean, it's mainly just nature showing off with some vintage action figures in the foreground. I mean, that's the beauty, I suppose, of our style, is that we're very much guerrilla filmmakers. We're getting out there. We're getting, you know, into the sand or into the jungle or into the trees. And as a result, we get a different breed of photography to what the more professional photo bugs get in their studios. They have great lens work, you know, excellent sharpness, scaled topography, because they actually create it from the ground up. We use, you know, what nature provides, but every once in a while you get like a perfect sunset, and you're like, okay, this is kind of cool. This might look nice blown up and printed out onto the page of maybe a coffee table style book of photography with accompanying anecdotes about that time I pushed the flag out into the ocean and the dog came running in after us. And I was like, no, get away, dog. Yeah, it's an idea that I've got marinating at the moment, and I spoke to Paul about it, and hell, even if it's just for my personal satisfaction to have a book of like pictures, toys that I happen to take with my iPhone, that's great. And if anyone else wanted to maybe have a copy for themselves, that's even better. Yeah, there's a lot of fan created content out there, and all of it's, you know, on varying scales of good, but I think it has its place. So yeah. More stuff.
Oh,
GI Joe book. Whoa.
So have we shared the link to this Indiegogo yet? Is that something people? Where would we find this? Where are we gonna find it?
I think Stephen will probably link it in the comments, but if not,
it's linked in the video comment as well at the underneath this video. So underneath our big story talking heads, it says HTTPS. I can never remember that's a colon / www.indiegogo.com/projects/cu ellipses. Anyway, it's the one in blue. Just click that. It'll take you straight through. But you know what? Most of us are net savvy, so I'm sure most of you guys figured that out. Also, thank you to some of the pledges. I'm seeing some guys that have said that they've pledged something, and that's awesome. So that's cool. Thank you, actually. Wow. Kuj, there you go, bro.
well, you guys can see it. That's looking pretty sick. I mean, I'm going to contain my excitement, but no, it's special. I think I was just going to say, nope, abort. What do you got? Robert, go.
Robert, into battle, go.
Oh my goodness. I'm loving the discussions in the chat, actually. People are really kind of like talking about, instead of just reimagining GI Joe, it's more about kind of going to a next generation. I suppose kind of like how Star Trek did. You start out with Kirk, and then you kind of went to, you know, Picard's era. And I mean, that's also a way of kind of pushing new products out there. So you're not just having, you know, it's not just Snake Eyes over and over again, which is what they did a lot in the modern era. You know, there's like freaking 80 different versions of Snake Eyes and 60 versions of Duke. Come up with new ideas and new characters. But I think also the difficult thing with that, at least, is that we're so used to the way that Larry Hama has interpreted, you know, these characters, the back of the file cards, I suppose, and for a lot of people, the cartoons. It's kind of difficult to move away from that, especially when you kind of reimagine things different enough. That is it still GI Joe if it doesn't feature these certain characters? So I suppose I'm on the fence myself when I work. I kind of think about, like, you know, where can GI Joe go next?
Well,
but
I because of that jump off, I can do a little bit of Black Book narrative. I hedged my bets. This was a Joe Berg this was a Joe book from the jump off. and you'll see a couple of Joe characters that I've tweaked. That's going to be half the fun. Like you're going to go, yeah, I already know that guy. I think that's what Paul's talking about when he's talking about kind of the fan fiction manga stuff. But I did I did want to include the Flaming Moth 2-pack, the Range Viper, and I think it's a Flak Viper. I could be wrong, but they're both they're a Desert 2 team, and they're individual characters. And when I couldn't do them as Cobras, you'll see what they became. And as well as Desert Scorpion. I'm actually going to drop an image of him in the live stream tonight when I'm talking comics. So no, it's not a. I think you'll enjoy it. It's not too far of a walk from what you're used to, but again, like I think the reason to get stoked about it is community, and I'm not going to back off just because it's not going anywhere. And like people support who they know, and I'll end on this and I'll be done. Joburg has been real from the jump. I mean, you guys all know it. Yes, we're polite, but we're on different continents. I mean, there's not too much that's sacred. So you're seeing one of the realists in a new era of media, and we're dropping the Black Book.
I couldn't resist this. And Cooge is right, but I couldn't resist this from an earlier thing. Somebody mentioned the new generation that we were speaking about now, and Rob sort of mentioned Star Trek as well. I'm rewatching Voyager, or should I say, I'm watching Voyager in its entirety for the first time. I mean, I used to watch it and pick it up in pieces when I was younger. And there's a very cool episode where they go into sort of Tuvok's memories of when he served on his first starship, and that was with Captain Sulu. And I love that. Like, that kind of thing is cool. So I think, yes, to see a new generation of GI Joe, like the kids of Flint and Lady J. Although, to be honest, I don't think Lady J and Flint would want their kid to go into the military. But hey, who knows? Everybody's different. But let's just say, hypothetically, yes, there was a new team that was created, and it's got like, Flint and Jay's son and Scarlet and Snake Eyes' daughter or son or whatever. It would be cool if like it wasn't like completely removed, like it wasn't like so far in the future, and that it did have these like sort of cameos where, Scarlet's daughter or Scarlet and Snake Eyes' daughter served under Duke in some, mission, or the stories could be like they're the new recruits on these Joe teams, and then sort of ease us in, or just to ease people into it, you could have these like flash forwards. I know they've kind of done that with the Transformers vs. GI Joe stuff. But yeah, that would be an interesting take. I just think that there's so many other stories that could be told in the current Joe universe. There's a lot of stuff that I don't think is quote unquote commercially viable, but I think would make really interesting stories, like extensive enterprises, for example. I just saw the word extensive enterprises in the chat box now, and I was like, wow, a whole you could do like a whole like TV series on just extensive enterprises and everything that they do, and the twist could be like midway through the season or at the end of the season, the twist could be that these guys are actually the bad guys, and that you've been rooting for the bad guys the whole time. And you could do stuff like that. I don't know how commercially viable it would be, but I think it'd be really interesting to see that side of Cobra, for example. And it'd be cool to have guys that want to do that kind of thing. It's very difficult for us to do it in action figure form. Although I say that now, and then, maybe in 3 months' time, G.I. Joe presents extensive enterprises.
Such as it is, you could have a couple action figures at work at your cubicle and do a little like live stream video, like Office style or something. Like, you find your niche as content creators. People will watch that. I'll bump it. I'll bump it.
Yeah, nice. I see somebody here mentioned if there's going to be a stealth.
If I wasn't boarding a plane.
Yes, Stephen.
Continue, Paul.
No, Steve, you go. I was actually. You go for it, and then I'll carry on with what I'm saying. I know what I want to talk about, so it's all good.
So
Okay,
there's a
Eisenberg.
gentleman called
Need him back.
Cody on Facebook who started. What's that?
Oh, I just was enjoying your
Okay.
outlaw swagger
Uh,
with the Eisenberg shirt.
Oh yeah, nice. Oh, that's right. Of course, he's a personal hero of yours, Curtis. So there was a guy on Facebook called Cody who shoots little sort of one-shot YouTube clips, or not YouTube clips. He just takes his mobile and uploads a video of like a quick action sequence. This particular one had Ripper sort of stalking along a wall and then getting gunned down, and then into the frame walks my man Shockwave. And Cody then like said, okay, who's next up to bat? Like someone else continued the adventure. If I hadn't been about to board a plane, I would have done that. I would have jumped in, and I had some toys to hand. And the toys I needed to follow that narrative, unfortunately. I mean, I really wish I had Shockwave at the time. I think I had Shipwreck, Wetsuit, a Tiger Cat, you know, the things you board a plane with. And I really wanted to continue the adventure, but as I say, that the timing was tight. Problem with things like that, of course, is the multi-global nature of it. I mean, you want to be able to do it in real time. Well, we're about 8 time zones ahead of the United States, and then Australia's 8 times ahead of that. So it's, you know, it's a case of tricky for these things to line up. But if they do, we should all endeavor to jump on them, because that could be super cool. Unfortunately, like, the problem with Facebook is it is so transitory. You know, things are there one day and gone the next. In fact, they're almost gone within hours. So there must be a better way to do this, and maybe YouTube is it. Maybe it's a case of like GI Joe Book does a chapter 1 month, and then the next contributor sort of almost not broken telephone style. They like continue the plot themselves. In fact, I'd be very interested to kick something off and then relay race it over to the next guy.
It worked for Star Wars.
Maybe that's the future of this project. How so?
Different directors, different writers. I mean, the
I was just playing around the whole sequel trilogy. Never mind.
Yeah. Look, I mean, as long as there have been action figures and cameras, people have been filming their adventures. I'm just proposing that we all weave some kind of common tapestry, some kind of common narrative thread. Though I also know the dangers of that, because I was once privy to a role-playing game, kind of free-form text-based GI Joe role-playing game online. And you tend to have people who are interested in GI Joe for different reasons, and all pulling in different directions. You have this sort of close-knit group of guys who are yeah, exactly. I'm getting to that. You have the close-knit group of guys who were interested in progressing the mission and doing it with some pace. And then you have people who, when it was their turn to move, you'd literally be waiting 5 days, a week. Come on, dude. You've got to respond to the fact that they're 5 just crashed through the glass windows. Like, come on. And then there'd be an X factor as well, an element called the fairer sex, who obviously grew up with Saturday morning cartoons. G was one of them, so they did enjoy the characters, and particularly the love triangles of like Destro, Baroness, Flint, Lady J, maybe back to Destro. So there were these interwoven sort of romantic nets, entanglements, which I mean, I speak for myself. I wasn't particularly interested in, and when you had to chew through like literally 5 pages worth of text about Destro scantily clad walking along his battlements, arm in arm with his once again scantily clad Lady J, talking about how their forbidden romance could. This is very rich, coming from a guy who wants to engineer a Zorana mainframe romance, but yeah, got a bit much. I was a bit too preoccupied with making whoopee.
Okay,
Well,
here's
yeah.
two questions. Like, let's say you do kind of crowdsource a narrative. Are you thinking like they send you a 2-minute video continuing Ricondo's adventure, or do they upload it to their social media and we bump it? Like, how do you foresee that?
Well, I don't want to muscle in on someone else's YouTube revenue. I mean, if people have channels and they want to,
We bump it.
You
Like,
know.
how do you foresee that?
well, you would just you would make sure it's numbered and hopefully cataloged in the same playlist. You know, you can create YouTube playlists that, if you go into those YouTube playlists, they will then play in order. We've certainly done that with Blazing Sand. We've done it with the 2 episodes of Blood and Water. Atlantis Factor has been part of a playlist for some time as well.
It's definitely
so
doable.
It doesn't have to be all on one channel. But if people are starting out and they don't have a channel with many followers, we'd be only too happy to host their content on our site.
Yeah,
Just
we don't
ask
make
us
money
for
anyway.
ad revenue.
You want $1, we'll
Well,
give it to
Rob,
you.
I'll tell you. This is the first you're hearing of it, so ladies and gentlemen, you're seeing it live on the YouTubes. But since starting a YouTube channel all the way back in, I think 2012, we have finally seen YouTube revenue this week.
Wow,
for the first
that's
time.
impressive.
Congrats.
Cool, we can finally get some McDonald's tomorrow.
In the words of HDC 788, it's a trickle, but it's your trickle.
That's a fantastic phrase. But I think definitely with this idea of continuing stories, I think to make, if you have some sort of guidebook at least up front where kind of you have, you know, people can do whatever they want, but there's at least some structure to follow. It'll make it a lot easier to kind of avoid, I suppose, going completely off book, as it were, you know, kind of like going in completely weird and crazy directions. You can kind of be like, you know, things have to be a certain way, or at least, you know, you kind of stay within certain structures. So if you kind of give people guidelines, it makes it a lot easier for them to come up with ideas. So I find things can't be too open, because if they're too open, you have no idea what you want to do, and it's very difficult. But if it's too restrictive, that's also another problem. But if you're somewhere in the middle, we're kind of going, okay, it has to be this long, include this sort of thing, that sort of thing, it makes it a lot easier for people to kind of collaborate and kind of move forward with ideas. And yeah, I think it's kind of cool that we kind of, I suppose, as we, I don't know, as we keep going along, we kind of changed the way that we do stuff. And we started out with reviews, we started out doing, you know, and then we started doing our own stories. And it's cool that we are kind of, I suppose, changing our minds, or kind of like, yeah, kind of hoping to kind of show off other people's stuff as well as best we can. You know, it's not just GI Joeberg, it's the GI Joe community in general. So I'm kind of glad that we kind of moving beyond just being like, hey, this is, you know, this is everything and this is us. We're showing that there is a lot more to the Joe community than just us. And, you know, anyway, I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, something that I wanted to mention, I just wanted to check okay, good, my mic's on, sorry guys. Something that I wanted to mention with regards to, like, if fans want to post stuff, you know, on our YouTube channel and whatever's, and, you know, like, okay, I know revenue and all those things are conversations that need to be had. Sorry, Chabang is like really wanting to be in this video now. Okay, well, for starters, we haven't really worked out a hard and fast sort of system for it. I think it's very open right now. And, you know, like, I must say, Troy and his awesome team, they made something that was really great, and it directly referenced something that we had done. and technically actually more something that Steven had done. So I think that's why it sort of fit on our channel. Now, that's not to say that you have to make something that now relates to our channel or relates to one of our stories or whatever. That's not our goal. That's not what I'm trying to tell you. It's just we will definitely need to create some kind of criteria. I mean, we don't want to be the gatekeepers of content. That's not our job. But I mean, if you do want to pop your stuff on here, you know, I suspect it does need to go through a few things, and I think more what that's going to sort of provide is more a situation of, oh, somebody wants to do a video, but they can't get people to do the voice work. Would we like to do the voice work on their video? And maybe we can do that. We can help with that, or they, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, I think the best way you're going to get content on GI Joe Book's channel right now is to do most of it. And if you need us to help you with anything, like maybe make it visible or something, yeah, we're happy to do that for now. And it means that, like, if it turns out to be successful and it's really great and you want to open your own channel, by all means do that. I don't want you to feel like there's some kind of exclusivity contract or something. We're not trying to create, we're trying to create a network, but not a network, if you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, I think the idea, yeah. I mean, I think the idea, obviously, we're still coming up with what this idea is. We're literally, I mean, you're seeing the process of us thinking about it right now as we're talking with you guys and reading what people are saying.
The litmus is, are you thinking about a situation that you could put Recondo in and around your neighborhood as a viewer? You probably are. I am. No, I think, just to add my 2 cents, and then I'm spun. The Joe community, I'm not going to mince words. It's the smartest community. It's the solidest people I've met. And you can be proud of that. I mean, like, we're not playing with toys. We're playing with information. So
I'm playing.
No, I dig it. And, you know, I'll bump on Twitter. As long as you're not completely nuts coming from a strange angle, I'll bump you on Twitter.
I think that'd be fantastic.
Blvck Book. Check it out.
Yes, please do, guys. Paul's involved. Cujo's come up with a really cool concept that I know nothing about, but I know enough about it to know that I think it's going to be a fun thing, an interesting thing, something that you will definitely want to own, and something that, you know, that a lot of people have worked on. It's not just Cujo, it's Paul, it's a bunch of other people. You know, so as we go along, hopefully it'll be a real thing, and Cujo will send me a copy.
And Del, you asked if we were going to ever touch things like the Eco Warriors or any of those kind of subsets or sub-teams or anything. Yeah, totally. I think it's quite obvious how much we love the 90s Joes. I mean, that's very much what we grew up with, I mean, for the most part. So yeah, expect to see Sonic Fighters and Eco Warriors adventures and Talking Joe Commandos, and expect to see them all, because that's stuff that we really enjoy. And I'm not saying that everything we're doing now is like a build up to doing amazing 90s content. It's just that we are excited about it. We have got some kind of plan, but we're sort of sticking to that. I mean, there are stories I want to do, and Steve's like, you can't do them yet. We're not there yet. I'm like, okay. You know? So yeah, we're going to definitely get there.
I think Paul, yeah. I mean, what I propose is that GI Joe Book will continue putting out its kind of official, you know, inter-channel content, and then fan or friend created content can be in a you know, as I said, a different playlist, depending on what the content deals with. That way, you know, if there are guys who are cutting their teeth and learning, they'll be pushed to kind of improve. And here's the more exciting facet of that: guys who are, you know, dare I say, better at this than we are, will give us a chance to up our game.
Yeah,
yeah, there you go.
You know, it's a wonderful opportunity to, so there will be varying scales of quality, but there'll be like sort of, you know, a slight between like GI Joe Book created content and then collaborative content, and it'll always be kind of clearly indicated. So if someone does come up to us with like, hey man, I want to do a story about the lunatics, aliens versus the Star Brigade. We'll be like, fucking sweet, man. Let's do that. But it's not going to immediately fit into the continuity that we've been working on because, you know, we're not there yet. We're stuck in 1986, buddy.
Yeah. No, exactly that. And no, there you go. That's actually, I think you said it the best now, with regards to that. It's like,
I think actually Delvis has said it the best. He said create the special missions channel.
yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
I think that's a cool idea. But guys,
although his was
yeah.
like, I don't think
With the-
he quite meant like special missions, you know. I think he meant like special missions.
but
Wait for it.
guys, yes,
Special missions.
I hope everyone does check out Black Book. I think it's a cool idea. I think it's a cool concept, and Cujo looks excited about it. Paul is pretty excited about it. He's working on it. He even took time out tonight, so the product's
I
going to
wasn't
be.
supposed to do. I'm being naughty.
He's being very naughty, but he couldn't help himself because we're not as technically minded as he is. At least I'm not as much as I used to be. Jeez, I don't know. How do you work a cell phone? But anyway, I'm gonna get going, guys. I have work tomorrow. This has been fun. Cujo, I hope everything goes good. I hope you know, lots more people come and check out the Black Book, and that you meet all of these people and they get, you know, you get signatures. People get to sign your book.
Yeah, if you're here and you're going to be at Joe Fest, it's a no-brainer. If you hear the sound of our voice, it should be a no-brainer.
Cujo, something somebody asked in the chat box. Sorry, is Black Book going to be available post JoeCon? Is it only going to be available on the Indiegogo and at JoeCon, or I mean JoeCon, Joe Fest? Sorry.
Joe Fest.
Yes.
Mhm. That's a good question. No, basically it'll be available at Joe Fest first, and then when I get back from that, I'll send you your copy.
Okay, so you don't have to go to Joe Fest, but it would be cool if you did go to Joe Fest.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
it's a Joe convention. Why wouldn't you? If you can afford it to go.
Yeah, I mean, I would be there if I could be there. So yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna get going. It's been fun. And we've talked so much more than just Black Book, but I mean, we've talking about collaborative efforts in general. And I think definitely, you know, at coming up to the end of 2019, moving into 2020, 2021, I think we're feeling like not only is the interaction between us and our fans kind of pushing us forward, but the opportunity to work with other people is maybe something that we're getting more excited about, you know, or at least hosting other people's stuff, or at least showing it off and being able to show, you know, what talents there are out there. I'm glad that we're kind of moving in that direction, you know, kind of like, hey, you know, here's everybody. Okay, that's me out. Cool. Cheers, guys. Thanks for this opportunity to talk to you. Goodbye, chat. Goodbye, Delvis. Goodbye, Mundane. I hope Stephen was fairly understandable near the end there. Brother Malachi, hit us up with them emails. Yeah, thanks for dropping in. Terry, Dustin, Action Figure Expert. Who else? Man of Action talking a lot. I like it. Yeah, and Dave, thanks so much for dropping by. The Photo Viper. I hope you're still around. Hope you're listening and watching. Anyway, cool. That's my off signing off thing. Cool. Cheers, guys.
Kuj, anything you need to say before we all say goodnight?
No, I'm solid. You guys good?
We are ice cold. We're cool here, man. Steve, I don't know if you're still with us, bro.
He's around.
I'm here.
Cool.
It's somewhat frustrating that my connection is so poor. Apparently, I have no way of knowing this.
Yeah.
Boo.
Boo.
We heard you most of the time, and we heard your beautiful words. We heard your beautiful words, Stephen. So many words. Beauty.
So,
Okay.
with that all said, yeah, we hope that you guys, after this, quickly run off to Indiegogo and throw in your $20 or $50 or whatever you feel is within your means to do. Even better, we hope to see you bring those books through to Joe Fest to get them signed. And other than that, yeah, we hope you're rocking, and we hope we have inspired you in a small part to take your toys off the shelves and play with them. Maybe not while everybody's watching. We get that, but yeah. And I think that's us for today, this evening, this morning. I'm not sure. Afternoon. I'm so bad with time zones.
Whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you're having a good day. Say hi to your mom. Wish her a happy Mother's Day if it is appropriate in your country, because I suppose it's not celebrated everywhere. But anyway, yeah. Cheers.
Bye from the Teal Ninja that's keeping it real, Ninja. I'm trying to find the button. Teal Ninja, keeping it real, Ninja. Berg.